Good morning and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Kiyonah. May you be blessed. Today I would like to talk with you about the people power movement. The movement of peaceful people power in America, and try to get some understanding of what this people power movement is. And how it functions and what difference it can make and how we can be a part of it. And I'm not saying I have the answers to any of these things. I'm just saying that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, the people power movement. I googled it and all it showed me was a bunch of stuff from Indonesia and other places like that, like in the Philippines. And I want to dig deep into this peaceful people power movement that's growing here in America. Some shining examples would be Standing Rock or the Occupy movement, but I'm talking about the completely decentralized peaceful people power movement, completely decentralized to where it's just each and every one of us making conscious choices in our lives that eventually influence change to ripple throughout society. So what is this people power? Every successful social change movement in U.S. history has had the key element of people power and mass direct action, such as abolition, women's suffrage, workers' rights, civil rights, anti-nuclear, Central American solidarity, global justice, and many other movements. So it was mainly in the communities of people of color and poor white communities where people power methods were developed in the USA. But it's not just a set of tactics and methods like nonviolent civil disobedience and, nonviolent civil resistance and things like that. It's actually a different understanding of power, and that gives us a whole wider range of potentials to choose from in our choices, so that we withdraw support from the establishment, the empire, whatever, and we embrace peaceful people power. The establishment and the empire sees power as something that they possess, and that we are powerless because they control the money, the police, the military, the corporate media. But people who believe in the peaceful people power movement are more like anarchists. We see it as a very fragile relationship, this power, where it's only there because so many people are allowing it. They're still continuing to eat at McDonald's. They're still continuing to just send their kids to public school and immunize and everything else. That's part of the whole paradigm of the establishment and the empire. Because they think that because of issues of money, police, military, or media, they feel like they have to comply and this is just the way it is and this is how life is. But people who are into the people power movement believe that the empire, the establishment, can be toppled if you remove the pillars that hold up their power. Okay, like the economy, the media, the police, the military. If you can do things to erode that away or to cause internal shifting and transformation with firing people, hiring new people, putting out bids for contracts, for projects, if you can influence people in those positions of power, because they are depending on the people they have hold power over to consent to that power. So for example, to topple the economic pillar and therefore cause the empire or the establishment to start to fall, something that could be effective but will probably never happen would be a national walkout for as long as it takes of people not going to their jobs unless it's absolutely essential for survival of people. Everybody not go out, not buy anything, not go to work, not do anything. Everybody agree to it nationwide, and and watch the cards fall where they may, to topple the banking, to topple the production lines, to topple whatever. So that's people power working together to topple a pillar that holds up the empire or the establishment. In the peaceful people power movement, which I don't hear a lot about, I heard some about it in the Bernie Sanders campaign, but I feel like I'm the only one talking about it. In the peaceful people power movement, it's where every single individual awakens and claims their inner citizen again and becomes a sovereign being, and actually makes choices in alignment with their true feelings about how things should be, instead of consenting to the agreements of the establishment and the empire. Living as sovereign beings, making responsible choices, and doing anything possible in any situation to resist the status quo if you don't like it, and then see about putting something else in its place. So people power, like it can be organized like the Occupy movement, but it can also be completely decentralized. It's about all of us governing ourselves individually. And so in order to transform society, you have to hit a critical mass of people for it to make a landslide of change. So the peaceful people power movement is about awakening enough people to where things transform. And it's not happening at the speed and power that it was in the 60s, but maybe that's a good thing. Or maybe it is, but it's just in a different way. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of people that are just slogging along in the status quo, or just surviving hand to mouth every day or whatever. And it's not necessary to live that way. So the establishment or the society or whatever you think of has these pillars, like industrial agriculture, public schooling, the banking industry, the real estate industry, etc. And people power is where people collectively decide to make choices that will topple that pillar. Like if the rental market is extremely competitive, then maybe everyone could decide to not rent a place to live and just leave town for a while, or set up a dignity village in the woods or something and do a protest in a way against that pillar, of the housing market. It's not affordable housing. It deprives people of their human rights to housing, and so it represents social injustice when the motive is profit instead of people, basically. So, if we want to restore balance, then sometimes we have to push a little bit to deconstruct the old ways, But for it to be a people power movement, enough people have to be doing the action in order for it to make a difference. Like, enough people need to pull out of Bank of America and things like that and put their money in local credit unions or alternative currencies. Have enough people done that yet? I'm not sure. I don't know. It would be nice if it was headed in that direction. We've got our money in a local bank, a very small local bank. So you want to be clear in what and why you're doing in the people power movement, why you're making these choices, like why you're going to all the trouble to have a garden. It's because you think that industrial agriculture is not healthy for living things, For it to be a really powerful movement and actually topple an empire or an establishment, it needs to be broadly publicized so all the sheeple and everyone else gets a chance to at least hear about it. I'm sure it took a tremendous amount of advertising for the Grateful Dead to get through to the mainstream consciousness when they put out that song, Touch of Grey. I had never heard of the Grateful Dead, and I was in my 20s. And I kept seeing this video on MTV. And finally, I eventually realized that there was some kind of entity to pay attention to. And it took a while, you know. So for people to be aware of the need for decentralized yet collective actions, like making these choices with banking and real estate and things, enough people need to realize that, so you really need to broadly publicize it, from getting stories in the newspaper, having actions in city parks, calling press conferences, making street posters and flyers, making a good website and widely sharing it, so that a huge portion of the people involved in that pillar know that you are out to dismantle them. Mass training and mass organization, you know, in real people power movements like the Occupy movement, they did have trainings, you know. I only have a few minutes left, I think, on here, maybe 13. So, and decentralization is the last part of it. It's where we can be allies and we can support each other, completely decentralized in our own lives, just making the connections where necessary in order to influence all this. Like, we could make a food co-op where we ordered food wholesale, you know, and ordered it from near and far and shipped it to each other and whatever, shared things. It's decentralized. Strategizing and collaborating whenever possible on common frameworks of action to chip away at those pillars that hold up the establishment, the empire, you know. We can have councils where we get together and we each hold the feather and we go around the circle and we hash things out. We can get involved in social media. These are pillars of liberation, not pillars of enslavement by the establishment. We can practice cooperative economics with bartering and co-oping and things. We can help each other attain food sovereignty by growing gardens and fruits and berries. And we can focus on restorative justice, which to me is just justice where things are restored to where they're supposed to be. So we as people, we need to be clear, we need to be effective, and we need to have an impact. Focus on our strengths, focus on our vision, focus on what we can really accomplish. If all you can accomplish is just changing your lifestyle to eat healthy and grow some food and buy natural products and buy from local artists and go to a local homeschool group and whatever you need to do, that is contributing strength to the peaceful people power movement, which is completely decentralized. There's no leaders whatsoever. It's each person being a sovereign being. And so, you know, if you want to seriously topple these things, the empire, the establishment, you have to have strategy frameworks and people who will actually go after these institutions in court, and just on and on and on and on and on. And basically, I'm just talking about a transformation in the lives of each individual person, and then that just naturally contributing to a collective consciousness that's more aware and more evolved. That's more what I'm talking about. But when you do have a strategy like that and activists, you can shift policies and administrative rules and all kinds of stuff. You can shift it. But look how it's shifting right now with this current administration. It really is like a sci-fi movie or something strange. So all of that protesting, all of that awareness, all of that community building that led up to that time when this person came into office. And by the way, you should always attack the policies, not the person or their words, because that's ineffective. You attack the policies, like with the immigrants or with the economy or anything else, or with drug enforcement policy. Attack the policies, not the person. Because if someone is a supporter of that person, then they could feel attacked as well if you attack that person. Like a friend of his is a friend of mine, so if you got a problem with him, then you got a problem with me. You know, you don't want to do that. So just focus on the policies. And that's what you do. You get your strategies, you get your people, and you start chipping away at those pillars that hold up the power of the empire and the establishment. Power is not something you hold. It's a relationship. Oh dear, my battery is dead. Is it plugged in? I don't know, I might have to check it. I think I have to move the camera. Sorry about all that. So, people power movement, you know, if we can get together with other activists and actually do kind of like direct actions and things like that, you know, that can be effective and powerful. It can definitely give your life purpose and meaning. But I still think that the real power of the peaceful people power movement is not just in the ACLU and whoever else is fighting for these changes in laws and regulations and institutions, which is necessary. But I don't know enough about that to really be articulate about it, so I'm just going to focus on myself, the ones I love, raising my children, affecting my neighborhood and community. Let's see. So you basically want to make a roadmap, you know, or a framework for what it is that bothers you. What issues bother you? Is it the military? Is it the agriculture? Is it education? Make a list of those things. And then think of the tactics you want to do to turn that around and to topple the influence of that. You know, I took my daughter to a nutritionist and they did not have the food pyramid anymore. Now it's a plate with colored portions on the plate and around it to show you what you should have at each meal. That's a whole different concept than the food pyramid. So somebody changed the framework for that perception, and now look at how it affects actions all the way down the line and how people get their nutrition. And then as you figure out your tactics, you know, do your campaign where you post on Facebook, you make videos. Like if you're a vegan and you're really into veganism and you want to just be like people power movement warrior of veganism, you know, get a good camera and go start taking beautiful pictures of the animals on the sanctuaries where they rescued slaughterhouse animals. Show how beautiful they are and make a calendar of them and sell it and give the money to veganism, you know. So the people who hold political power depend on many things for their authority and their legitimacy. You know, the belief that people have that they are legitimate and that they have a duty to support it and be patriotic. You know, a lot of us don't have that. They require people and groups that are obeying, cooperating, and providing assistance to the empire. They require the skills and knowledge needed to carry out the empire and supplied by the cooperating persons and groups. They rely on psychological and ideological factors which induce people to obey and to assist the empire without even knowing it, or the establishment. They need material resources, access to property, natural resources, financial resources, the economic system, and the means of communication and transportation. Interesting. And they need sanctions and punishments, both threatened and applied, against anyone who dissents or does not cooperate in order to ensure the submission and cooperation needed to carry out the empire. All of these things depend on the acceptance in people's consciousness of the empire or the establishment. It depends on their submission and obedience, and on the cooperation of countless people and institutions of the society. But none of these are guaranteed. Any of them can be influenced and changed by a people's power movement. And that's going to look like corporate campaigns where you do things to pressure corporations or colleges to divest their stocks of certain corporations. Direct action, like picketing, public education, and media campaigns. Nothing destructive or damaging, just peaceful people power awakening. And you can also work on helping your community to assert its sovereignty, like refusing to recognize corporations as people or persons. Because they don't need the rights of a person. They need to be responsible corporations. If you want to look at the U.S. empire and the pillars that hold it up, they use corporate globalization, the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, and the G8, in combination with military training, bases, and interventions in order to advance its aims. The result of the empire's economic and military mechanisms is a growing gap between the rich and the poor in the U.S. and throughout the world, but especially in developing countries. So it's of really huge importance that our movements confront the empire's integrated military and economic agenda, as these policies devastate the life support systems of the earth. So the people power movement, I think, is still pretty dispersed. It's still pretty small. Even if there is a huge industry every year for certain things like the health food industry, the vitamin industry, the meditation and yoga industries, etc., it still is not really chipping away at the pillars of the military and the economy and things like that. So, we need to do something about that. So this is my partner Fred's call to action. We published it in our last newsletter. Ask yourself, what kind of country, world, and future do you want to be living in? Who is going to solve the many crises we face? Who is going to create the cooperative world that we all need? You need to do it. No rich politician bought by corporate money, no multinational corporation, or the 1% will not save the world. You, the new generation, you need to save the world. Only organized people power can save the world. And you, the new generation, need to be the visionaries, the inspiration, the spark, the organizers of the new people power, world transformation movement. These are times of great turmoil and challenge, and these are times of great opportunity. The choice is yours. It is only in times like these that great world transformations can happen. You have the opportunity and the responsibility to be the generation that will be remembered for ages. You can be the generation who created the massive social, economic, and world transformational changes that will move the world into the next stage of cooperative human evolution. So how do we do that? We have to organize both collectively and in decentralized ways. And we have to perform direct actions that somehow topple those pillars and then construct pillars of liberation in their place. It's up to each of us, activists, artists, visionaries, and focalizers, to put forth the effort and the energy to manifest the transformative visionary projects necessary. Together we build a new world now for us all, a world of freedom, joy, and abundance for all people, all creatures, and all ecosystems of the earth. To do this, we need to be developing networks of consciousness, culture, communications, connections, cooperation, coordination, community, and creation. The choice is ours to be turning the tide. And it says planetarians unite. So we're talking about a total revolution here on all levels. A peaceful revolution. Social, economic, political, everything. And the way it happens is with peaceful people power movements. I thought the Occupy movement had a lot of potential, but I haven't heard from them in a few years. Standing Rock and all of the commitment to protest all the pipelines, that seemed to have potential. The Bernie Sanders movement seemed to awaken a lot of people. So, we're chipping away at it gradually and very gradually building our numbers. But the way it works and the way it can be effective is by targeting the pillars of what you want to unravel and going after those with nonviolent and peaceful and conscious direct actions, and have media campaigns of some kind, whether it's graffiti, stickers, posters, social media events, awareness raising events, or what have you, and then do things to pressure corporations that are tied to whatever you're protesting, so that they withdraw their money or power from the situation. Whatever you can do, collectively, in a way that's cool and that feels good and purposeful, like you're trying to tear down the old so we can build up the new simultaneously, So I'll share more thoughts on the people power movement in the future. So until I talk with you again, remember to be beautiful, be free, and be true to yourself. Remember to be blessed and be blessed and be a blessing. And remember to take care and take it easy. And until I talk with you again, namaste and blessed be.